you very much, Sophia. Yeah, can everybody hear me? Am I too loud? Am I too quiet? Sounds good. Great, yeah. So, yeah, I was already introduced. My name is Scholz. I will be your guide for the next 60 minutes and, yeah, hopefully show you some cool things about ETH and G and, yeah, tell you a little bit why we need ETH and G, why we want ETH and G, and what we can do with ETH and G. So I've prepared this little agenda. It will show up from slide to slide, and I will first cover why do we need labs in the first place and why is ETH and G the solution that we need. And I will cover some features, what's new, what has changed over the last few weeks, months. Why on earth do we want IPv6 in the lab? Because that's a topic that a lot of you asked, so here it is. Then I will go over some of the custom templates and over the commit system in ETH, because apparently not a lot of people seem to know that there is a commit system in ETH with QEMU. I will also show you what it is and how you can use it. And then I will tell you a little bit about ETH and G and IPv6 only environments. And yeah, we're finishing with the Q&A section. Of course, you can also write all of your questions into the chat. We also have Uldis from the ETH and G team here, the one and only. So if you have an ETH specific question, feel free to write it in the chat. And yeah, let's start. So Dilip, I think if you can't hear, sometimes what helps, at least what I've experienced in Adobe Connect, is just close Adobe Connect, reopen it, and then it should be good. The same as when the slides seem to hang. That's what I usually do when I am joining with Adobe. Hopefully we move to Zoom soon, but yeah. So why do we need labs and why do we want ETH and G? Why do we need labs at all? Here are some examples why we would need labs. First of all, I'm using labs for certification. So when I'm studying for a new topic, or I just want to find out if certain features are working or not working in new images that come out. And that's basically the main point for me why I need labs. You have also just heard about the All Access Training Pass, the AATP. I don't know how many $1,000 I've already spent on it. It's really great because usually with the courses, you also get the lab guides. So you can recreate your labs in ETH and lab them whenever you want, wherever you want. And that is just really, really great. What I've also seen people doing is using ETH for verifying solutions for partners, customers, doing micro-POCs with it. Instead of moving all the hardware to a customer, you can lab it in ETH. There is even a learning center edition, so you can even give whole training courses inside of your ETH and G without having to have physical lab, which makes things way easier. Because with ETH, you have the ability to lab via HTML5 inside of your local browser, so you don't need any tools installed. You just open your web page, navigate to your ETH, and you're ready to go. The last point, the right tools for the right job is there are some parts where you want to use physical labs. For example, if you're labbing features like virtual chassis or virtual chassis fabric, because currently there is no solution in the Juniper images to lab VC or VCF. And therefore, if the image is not able to do it, you can't do it in ETH. Why ETH and G? Well, first of all, when I started to lab, I started with ESXi, and I think a lot of you have also started with ESXi. But the problem is when you spin up your different nodes and you need point-to-point connections, you basically have to set up a lot of vSwitches and then interconnect these switches. And the bigger your labs get, the harder it gets to track, okay, what vSwitch is what link on my device. And usually you're getting confused with that. So with ETH and G, this whole workload is taken care of by ETH in the background. So you basically just click on your nodes, you interconnect them, and the vSwitch is created for you in the background. So you don't need to track anything of that. Eve is multi-vendor capable. So yeah, as long as your vendor supports KVM, Eve supports it as well. And that's really, really great because yeah, it's not influenced by any vendor, and it's not optimized towards, let's say, Cisco or Juniper or whatever vendor XYZ. And that makes it really, really near to the practical everyday work. And yeah, that's a huge plus in my opinion. There are some vendor tools like CML2, Virl and stuff, but they are often optimized for a different device type or a different situation. While in Eve, you can basically create your own topologies, and yeah, the only limit is your brain, basically. You will see later in the live demo what I mean by that. With Eve, you have the option to install it either as a virtual machine. So if you're saying, okay, I want to try Eve, I want to see what it looks like, I want to experience what it feels like, just download the OVA from the Eve website, deploy it on your ESXi, and you're ready to go. And if you think, well, I need a little bit more power under the hood, then you can go with the bare metal setup, where you basically install yourself a Ubuntu and then install the Eve packages. And yeah, that makes it a little bit faster. And I will also show you a slide what I mean with that. It's very easy to install. Actually, it's just a one-liner. And yeah, then you're already running Eve and G. You can start relatively small. It always depends on how many nodes you want to have parallelly running in your lab. So you can start very, very small, but you can also have huge labs if you like. But that depends all on the power of your server. If you have a blade center at home, just put your Eve on it and you will be good for all the time. If you have just your laptop, okay, maybe you can just run 1 or 2 nodes and do some quick verification, stuff like that. So yeah, that's also not a problem. Then one thing I want to mention is watch out for copycats. There are a lot of other solutions out there that even if you Google Eve and G will bring you to this website. I've mentioned 2 of them here, this Peanut Labs and Quevic. This is not Eve and G. Usually I call them copycat solutions. Usually they are based on Eve. They might have 1 or 2 enhancements for free, and that looks really nice. And you might think, okay, I'm going to try this. But usually they also give you the vendor images and stuff like that. And that is extremely forbidden. So with the original Eve and G, I've shown the website here. You will only get the Eve and G, and the nodes, so the images that you run on Eve and G, that's up to you. You can go to Juniper. If you have your Juniper account, you can download them, you can upload them in your Eve, and then you're safe. So yeah, watch out for that copycats, as I call them. So the question that you're asking yourself when you're starting to lab is, do I need a virtual lab or do I want to install my Eve on a hardware server? Well, the best thing where you get the most of it is if you install Ubuntu on your bare metal server and install Eve on that. This way, as you can see here, you have your hardware. On top of the hardware, your hypervisor, your Eve is running. It's basically a KVM emulation. And on top of that, your Juniper virtual device is running. If you use the virtual edition of Eve and G, there's your ESX in between. And that makes your Eve immediately the tier 2 hypervisor. So it's moving away from the hardware. So the hardware is exposed to your ESX, and your ESX has to expose the hardware to your Eve. And so in order to talk to the hardware, now your Eve has to talk to the ESX and the ESX to your hardware and vice versa. So as you can see, there's one more layer, and that makes things, depending on the hardware that you use, a little bit slower to absolutely slow. If you use your Windows client or workstation running Eve, you have your hardware, then you have your Windows OS. This one has the workstation running. This one has the KVM running. And on top of that, your V device would be running. And you really need to watch out for Leonardo DiCaprio because you're running Eveception here, because that's solution in solution in solution. And yeah, well, that makes it relatively slow. And that is not really fun to work with. So your devices will take ages to boot up and they will take ages to commit and stuff like that. Some of them even might look like they never come up because, yeah, the performance is missing because there are so many layers in between that your V device can't even reach the hardware anymore. So what has changed? Well, the first big thing that happened lately is EVE-NG version 3 came out. So basically, EVE was running, or the community edition is still running, on Ubuntu 16.04. And the new EVE, the EVE 3.0, is running on Ubuntu 18.04. So that was a huge step into a more modern operating system. There were also a lot of enhancements taken care of, so new CPU and RAM management backend. Some design features have been implemented. You will see that in the demo that I will show you later. You have the possibility to see your lab tasks, but you can basically upload your PDF into your EVE and you don't even need to carry around your PDF anymore. So you can just log in from, let's say, a work device where you don't have access to your PDF. As long as you've uploaded it into EVE, you will have a task section where you can basically see, okay, these are the steps that I have to take, or maybe you have the AATP or you have purchased the expert guides. If you're studying for the expert exam, then you can just upload your lab guide and you will always have it with you. This is, of course, all of this is stored on your EVE device. So it's not uploaded to any cloud. It's on your local EVE device. And also there's a screenshot topology. I will also show you that in the live demo. Because that's really cool if you go over your labs that you immediately see a screenshot of your topology, so you know, this was the topology that I mean. If you have like 5 or 6 OSPF labs, that's always a good thing to know. So what's also new is if you look at the VQFX section, you might have noticed that there is now a pre-configured KVM image section. And that is a huge plus in my opinion. Originally, you had to basically convert your VMDKs or your box files to KVM, or at least part of that. And then this has to match in order for the device to boot up. No more. With the new VQFX, you can simply download the RE and the PFE, upload it to your EVE, and you're done. So one thing here is, if you download this, it says 20.2, but actually it's 19.4. I'm currently working with JTAG to get that sorted. That's maybe a wrong file placed in the backend, but it's still the pre-configured one, and you can still upload it, and you're good to go. And also in case you missed it, because I missed it as well, because it's very easy not to spot this. If you download the VMX inside of EVE, you also have the VMX separate as the RE and the PFE, and you need to interconnect them. But the VMX is also available as a nested device. So on the bottom you see this nested BYOL. So that's basically the all-in-one VMX, but with the newer version. There was this, I think it was version 17, where there was an all-in-one VMX, and now it's back. So if you see the nested, let me try to put this thing here. I hope you can see the arrow. The nested bring your own device, that's basically the version that you want to use if you want a single VMX device. But you would also need a custom template for that. So I am currently trying to create a template that will work for most of you, and then I will upload that to my blog so that you can use it. So why on earth do we want IPv6 in our labs? Well, the question is, why not? IPv4 is becoming extremely expensive, or it's impossible to get in the first place. As you can see here, this is an actual picture taken at the RIPE HQ. Basically, if you become a service provider yourself and you get your own AS number like I did, you basically have no chance of getting IPv4. You can apply for a wait list, but yeah, as you can see, your request is gone. Some folks have told me they waited half a year. Some of them have even waited longer, and it only gets worse. So the idea is basically to use EVE, because now you can use all of EVE, even with IPv6 only. And that's one of the few solutions that can offer this, IPv6 only. And you basically, you want to lab as much with IPv6 as you can. Because IPv4 will be gone sooner or later, if you like it or not, if I like it or not. So make sure you're prepared for that. What are some pros to test IPv6 in the lab, or to convince a colleague to use IPv6 if they are like, well, I don't really need IPv6. That's a hype like Google or Facebook. It will go away. No, it won't. And actually, it enhances a lot of things. Well, first of all, we get rid of NAT. That's give me that reason alone, and I will happily deploy IPv6, because usually NAT, it's a protocol breaker, right? A lot of folks tell me NAT is for security purposes, but no, NAT is not security. So the thing that I want to tell you is practice it now in the lab, implement it sooner, not later. And you can get IPv6 addresses relatively easy. Even most of the providers provide you with v6 easily. And with one single subnet, you can see how many hosts you can spin up, and not even my NG server can handle that much. I'm really running an EVE beast here, but even my server couldn't handle this much hosts. So, custom templates. What are custom templates? You might have seen the blog article that I wrote some time ago with the VSRX 3.0. Custom templates are basically templates for the hosts that are not yet implemented into the EVE-NG drop-down menu. And I wrote it down here. All KVM files are always implemented. They are not just yet tested, verified, and put into this little drop-down menu. But you can create your own custom templates, so they will show up. You will see that in the demo later, because the VSRX 3.0 is one of the Juniper devices that benefits a lot from this custom templates. Templates are not to be confused with the images. The images inside of EVE are called nodes. So, And I've listed some examples here. The VSRX 3.0, the Space Policy Enforcer, JATP. I've also committed them, so in one of the next new EVE versions, they might show up so that you don't have to create custom templates anymore. But if Juniper releases some VSRX 4.0 tomorrow, you don't have to wait until it shows up in any drop-down menu. You can create a custom template. You can play around with the different options inside of that template to see what works best for me, and then you just deploy it to your EVE server, and then you can start labbing with it. The only thing is that you need to know the settings of this KVM image so that you know, okay, what CPU options does it need, or does it need any at all? What is the hard disk naming that I have to take, and stuff like that. So you have to know a little bit about the things that you are doing. And basically, in general, if you have a vendor image that runs on KVM, great, then it will run on EVE. There's no doubt. And if you have a vendor image that runs on ESX, you might have a, let's say, 80 to 85% chance that it will work, unless it's some ESX specific that KVM, can't give to you. But usually, even when you convert the ESX images, they will run fine. So one of the coolest features that nobody seems to use is the commit system in EVE. And just like in the Junos, in EVE, you have the possibility to basically commit or write your changes back to the original node that you created, only in one direction. So you can't say, okay, I messed that up, I'm rolling back. That's not possible. But it allows you to modify an image, and then you will always have this predefined image as a starting point. You can also, with the Juniper images, you could just save your config, deploy a new one, deploy the config, and you're done. But if you have, let's say, a basic config where you're always using the same name server, always using a different host name, or you basically want to enable SSH netconf and stuff like that, if it's not already in the default config, then you can basically create your own template, and whenever you deploy a new node, it will already have the settings. And that works with every of the QEMU images. So even your Windows server, let's say you're running a big Juniper lab and you need a full-blown AD server. Then you install it, you create yourself your settings, you basically configure this single Windows server, then you commit the changes, and whenever you need exactly that machine, you can just redeploy it as often as you want. You can make changes to it, and if you're like, nah, I need my basic setup, just delete it, deploy it new, and you don't have to create the AD domain again and stuff like that. So you can really spin the things up tailored to your environment. And usually that helps a lot, because you might have ZTP with some solutions, so zero-touch provisioning, but not all of the images that you work with might be able to do zero-touch provisioning. And yeah, if you spend a lot of time with those nodes, then yeah, you can just commit it and just save it for later as a new starting point. But I will also show you that in the live demo. I've prepared a VSRX 3.0 that we will commit so that you can see what we're talking about here. So Eve in IPv6 only environments. Eve is one of the few solutions that is now capable of running in IPv6 only environments. So as you can see here, I became my own service provider, but I only had IPv6 space. So at first I thought, okay, with the old Eve versions, that should be easy, right? So I just use Net 6.4, because for the licensing and updates, you would still need IPv4. And then, yeah, at wasn't a sunny day, little Christian decided, okay, I will upgrade my Eve host. That's the one on the top. And after I hit the upgrade button, you see, there was me at 3 a.m. packing my things, driving to the co-location because my allo was not patched, because something seemed to went wrong, because IPv6 was not really certified for Eve. It worked, but you had to basically configure it yourself. So yeah, my IPv6 stack broke, and so I had to drive to the co-location. But that's a hassle that you don't need anymore, because since December 2019, you basically just used your IPv6 address instead of an IPv4 address, and you're done. It works. And if I can do it, you can do it too. So what I mean is, just go to your IPv6 environment. Maybe you have one at home, maybe you have one at work. Spin up your Eve. The installation wizard will ask you, what IP should I use? Use your IPv6 address, and you will be able to lab away. You will be able to access it via v6. It can get all the updates via IPv6. You can get all the license stuff towards the Eve servers with IPv6. And that is a huge, huge plus compared to other solutions. Because with many other solutions, still up to this very day, IPv6 is only treated as secondary. And yeah, with EVE-NG, it's now possible to use IPv6 only. That's, yeah, I cannot tell you how amazing that was for me that this finally worked. So, start demo time. I'm trying to share my screen now. Hopefully that works. Let's see. So I hope you all can see my screen now. Ah, great. That was the one point where I thought, that might be painful, but seems like it works. Okay. So in here you can see a little topology that I created, nothing special, basically some IPsec and remote devices. But what I want to show you is this VSRX 3.0 here. So what I did is I have created a custom template that I will show you in a minute. And I called it Eve Beta Juniper VSRX 3.0. And I'm using the version 20.1 R1. And as you can see, I've copied this one and called it 20.1 R1.11 custom. So that's basically the one that I want to commit my changes into now. So whenever I redeploy it, I will have the changes in it immediately. So I'm in HTML5 mode, so I can just click on my Eve device or my VSRX device. And as you can see, I already have some things configured. So as you can see, I changed the host name and I've also added a name server. But now let's say I want to add another name server because I always want to have 8888 and let's say 1111. So I'm just editing it, committing it. So as you can see, we now have 8888 and 1111 in it. So if I would go ahead and redeploy this custom, the 1111 would be missing because I've only changed it on this specific node. So for every node, the QEMU separate hard disk where all your changes are basically written to. So I've made all my changes that I want, so I'm powering the device off now. What I will show you now is, let's restart it. So I'm heading over to my QEMU folder. And as you can see, I have my VSRX 3.0 images here, and I have this custom image here. So basically, I just copied this folder and named it custom. So, and as you can see here, that is a little how-to that I will also put on my blog in case you haven't seen it already on the Eve website. It's also explained there in the detail. You basically need three things for your image so that you know where to commit the changes. You need your pod ID, and I'm logged in to my Eve Pro as the admin, so that will always be 0 for the admin. You need your lab ID, and you can see the lab ID when you hover over lab details. Then it will show you your lab ID. It will show you the name of the lab. In my case, it's just OSPF. And it will also show you the ID, node ID. That's basically, if you right click on the device and go to edit, then you will see the node ID here. So in my case, it's 6. So I've already prepared it here. So as you can see, 0 because I'm the pod ID 0. That's the lab that we're currently running on, and the node is 6. So we're just going to that directory. It's under op unit lab temp and then your string. And as you can see, here is our basically our diff file. And so 74 megabyte are currently written to it. And now we just need this command here. Basically, you tell the QEMU to commit the changes from the Word IOA back to the original device. And depending on the changes that you've made, depending on how big that time, but as you can see, that was relatively quick. So it tells you image committed. So we go to our topology now. We're adding another node, 2.0, custom one. Save, and you can see how easy it is to add another node and how easy it is to interconnect them. And you don't even have to think for a second about any of these switches in between and stuff like that. And that makes Eve just perfect. So let's power on our new VSRX 3.0. While it's booting, I will show you some of the newer things that the Eve Pro can also do. So let's say you have a VQFX here. As you can see, I have renamed my routing engine to LAN, and the PFE is down here. And you need to have this internal link between them. That's where they basically communicate with each other so that your QFX works. And you need to make sure that this link in the config and on the topology never gets deleted. So what you can do now with the new version is you right-click on the link, you click on Edit Style, and then you have a link label. Let's say, do not delete. How freaking cool is that? Or maybe you are running LACP over it, or you're having an AE interface because you have multiple links between it. You can now add a link label, and you don't need to look that up in your device. You can just have a look at your topology and you immediately see, okay, this is my AE1 or my whatever. Sometimes, depending on if the descriptions overlap, you can also change the position of it. And that's just fun. You can design so many awesome labs with it. You even have the possibility to do the craziest things with your links. Just play around with it a bit. And yeah, you now have the power to do so many amazing things with it. Even the labels themselves, you can change the positioning. And there was, sometimes they will really overlap, especially if you put the links next to each other. Okay, you can't do anything here, but if you have like 20 or 30 nodes running in it, then now you can just position it where you're immediately seeing it without it overlapping. You can also change the style, let's say into dashed, and since I don't want this to be deleted, I'm going to make a red label with do not delete. And now I know, okay, I do not want to delete this link. Let's look back at our VSRX. It has booted up. So let's log in. And as you can see, we have our new name server already in it. And this is something that makes labbing even more easy, because now you just need to spend a huge amount of time creating one perfect image for you, commit the changes, and you can deploy it as often as you want. But the VSRX will still take care of things like, okay, what if I write the changes back? Will it have the same serial number or stuff like that? No, it will not. The system is intelligent enough to take care of that, and they will still have 2 different serial numbers. So if VC at some point is possible in the future, we will also be able to do virtual chassis with completely different serial numbers with it. And that is something that I really wanted to show you, because this commit system is something that a lot of people not even know that it exists. And yeah, for me, that was like, wow, okay, now I can create a Juno space, add all my nodes to it, and whenever I redeploy that lab, I have all my settings in that space. I don't need to make a database backup, and so on and so on. So yeah, tailored to my environment, I can create my own nodes now, commit them back, and yeah, I can even do that with customer A, customer B, customer C if I'm running different POCs in it, and I can even interconnect the customer topologies then. Like let's say you have created your perfect VSRX and you want to test it out to a couple of scenarios. Then yeah, commit your changes once, and then you can put it into all of your awesome labs and just lab away with it. So I will now head back to the, oh no, let's first look at the server a little bit more. So this is one of my Eve servers that I'm running at the co-location. A bit better to read. So as you can see, I don't have an IPv4 address here. I just have an IPv6 address. And I have full connectivity with everything. I can, as you can see, I was able to start nodes, so the licensing part of the Eve Pro works. If not, it would have thrown an error and say, okay, this host is not licensed, I can't reach the internet anymore. And that is just really, really great. So, and regarding this VSA, you go to opt unit lab HTML templates, and depending on if you or an AMD CPU, you want to go to the folder Intel or AMD. In my case, I'm running on an Intel Xeon server, so I'm heading over to the Intel folder. As you can see, there are a lot of YAML templates in here, and I will go ahead now and show you the 3.0 that I created. So basically, that's what I meant with you have to know your stuff. You have to know what does it need those options. Just experiment with it. I mean, it's a lab solution. If you're creating a custom template, I think I had like 100 or 200 different templates before I found out, okay, for my specific machine, this works the best. And now I'm using this template. And if you say, okay, I don't have a CPU that has this SSE 4.1, yeah, okay, just leave it out and test and see if it still works or if it works better or worse. And yeah. Also, as you can see here, you can manipulate the default CPU and RAM settings. But I've mentioned that in a lot of the sessions before, you don't want to go below the recommendations because save yourself the what the fuck moments. You don't want to go below what your vendor tells you, even for the lab. You can try it, but yeah, expect to see some problems, especially with V6. Your SRX, for example, it will work with way less RAM, but the V6 stack will completely refuse to work. And you will troubleshoot yourself to the death before you realize, okay, it's maybe because I've set the RAM limit a little low. I know that depending on the laptop or the device that you run Eve on, you might want to change, to save some RAM and CPU, but really don't go below the recommendations. So I will go back to the slide. Yeah, it even starts where I left it. Great. So I call the slide the good advice, save pain for later. The multi-core problem, or less is more. Basically, what your devices are running on are virtual CPUs. And if you think like, okay, I have a server with, let's say, 60 CPU cores, and I'm giving all my VSRXs each all the 60 CPU cores. You will see that even with all the resources that your server has, your devices will run really, really slow and painful crappy. Why is that? Because imagine this, this like a train. Your CPU is talking to every core in an exact order. If you assign more virtual cores than cores that you have in reality, it basically has to go over the cores again and again and again. And once that loop becomes too big, you will have a really, really, really massive resource problem. So stick to the recommendations from Juniper, from whatever vendor you use the solution with. And yeah, just use these settings and don't make the mistake to go either way beyond it or way below it. One of the most things that people come back to me with is my VQFX is not running. Can you tell me why? Well, as I've shown you and as I've mentioned, there is this EM1 interface. And usually if you spin the VQFX up, you will have a lot of interfaces and sub-interfaces because I think it has all the 48 ports into 4 blocks because it's already for channelization. it's configured that way. And usually what I also do at the first is I'm deleting all those unnecessary interfaces. But if you just say, okay, delete interfaces and then commit your changes, your VQFX will never come up, because with delete interfaces, you've deleted every interface, also the EM1. And although it might look like it's not necessary because it has a 169 address configured, it's really necessary for the VQFX to talk between the RE and the PFE. So make sure that in your configuration, you are still leaving the EM1 interface. What I usually do nowadays is I'm saying wildcard delete interfaces XE and GE. So I'm only deleting the XE and the GE interfaces, leaving EM0 and EM1 in the QFX so that it can run. Another thing that a lot of people ask me is virtual chassis or virtual chassis fabric possible with the VQFX? And unfortunately, it's not. The VQFX is basically the QFX 10,000. And on the 10,000, VC and VCF are not possible. And even if you're able to configure parts of it, virtual chassis and virtual chassis fabric will not work because it's not meant to run VC and VCF. So therefore, don't waste your time. This is not possible. If this will be possible at some day, I am very, very sure the social media will tell you, and Juniper will reach out to you like, hey, you can even simulate VC and VCF now. Maybe there will be even some VC and VCF things in the VLab soon. It's the Juniper labbing solution. That's also really great if you're just into a smaller Juniper topology. But currently, for the VQFX, virtual chassis and virtual chassis fabric are not possible. And also, booting the labs might take time, depending on your hardware that you use. It might even take, I've even seen 2 or 3 or up to 6 hours to boot it up. With my old Generation 5 server, when I started my JNCIE DC certification, I've created a really, really massive lab, and I started all of the nodes at the same time. And then I was like, why are the nodes so painfully slow, not booting up? CPU is at 100% all the time. Yeah, because the server was really running everything it had. So the VQFXs took I think it was 7 hours before I could start labbing. It worked, but it took a lot of time. So especially if you're running the VQFX on your VMware workstation, make sure that you give it enough time. If you have the login prompt, just log into your RE, and show chassis FPC will show you, can the RE already talk to the PFE, or does it need more time? If it's not showing up, then maybe you need to wait a little longer. If you've waited 1 day and it still did not come up, okay, then you know, okay, it will probably not come up. I need to check, do I have the EM interfaces? Is the link still there? Has someone accidentally deleted the link on the Eve topology? That can also happen, especially if you're just connecting over SSH, because usually once you can create your lab and then you can just jump over SSH or Telnet to your devices. Hopefully not Telnet over the internet, but you could theoretically do that. And if someone on the topology accidentally deleted this link because he thought, okay, that's not needed, this might be the problem. Okay, this is the slide that I also had last time about the video series covering EVE-NG and Juniper. The EVE-NG YouTube channel, there are a lot of videos and how-tos from the EVE-NG guys that you should check out. The EVE-NG website, if you have an EVE-NG specific question, there's a live chat that you can go into. And if you have a nice topology that you want to share, there's a lab sharing section in the EVE-NG forum. Make sure to check that out. And I'm also mentioning it one more time. Try to take a look at the All Access Pass. My boss was originally arguing a lot because it costs I think $5,000. but you will get emails from Juniper every month on what courses you visited and what that would have cost if you would have purchased all the courses. And I personally have a feeling that next year there won't be any discussion. I will get the pass right away because, usually the courses are, they're not necessarily expensive, but they add up. If you visit a lot of courses, that adds up. And especially if you're like me and you're new to the service provider space, for example, and you need to visit a lot of courses, then you definitely want to check out this All Access Training Pass. I will also, once I've finished building my house, that's why you don't see many videos from me coming currently. I'm also looking into giving you a little video intro about the courses that Juniper has to offer to show you for who is this course and how I enjoyed it or not enjoyed it, just from my side. Now if you have some questions, I will be around here. If you like to connect, I'm always happy to connect with you. If you have a question, just reach out to me via Twitter or email or LinkedIn or whatever. And what I would be interested in, that was at the beginning of the session, Sophia already mentioned it, I would be happy if you write down your country or time zone in the chat, because Brandon I think he was from New Zealand, approached me earlier today and said, well, for me it's 2 a.m. in the morning, and that's extremely hard for me to get up at that time. And it would just be good to know if we would do another session, maybe in another time zone. I personally don't mind standing up at 2 a.m. to give a session to you, but I just wanna see if this is good for you, or if it's extremely late now, then double and triple thank you very much for listening to me. Or if you got up very, very early in the morning, then quadruple thank you very much, because I know what it's like to get up early in the morning. So thank you very much.